What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel, another day to the struggle. But I think we are improving, and we've decided, or not decided, we after watching some of the clips and the videos and then going back and tracking some of the stuff, we've made a couple of changes on our set. Of course, we're still trying to learn how to deliver it consistently, but based on what I was seeing, we're going to go with this one right here, but we're going to turn the dice one time over here, which is essentially a 2V. And I seem to be having a little bit more success with that. This is what that's going to look like right here. Okay, and as you see in previous videos, I like to either rotate them like this, depending on what I'm seeing and what I'm coming. Sorry, we got our landscaper out front, so got to turn the music way up here so we're not hearing the weed eater. And that's pretty much how I like to do it. And sometimes you'll see me turn them around like so, putting different dye on the inside, but I'm not as familiar with the set yet to really be doing that. So at this stage, we are just using the 2V simply because of the dye that gets off axis from this position, throwing it the way that we were throwing it. I was getting a lot of double pitch. Not as many double pitch 7s. I was getting a lot of both dice off axis into a 7, like the 5-2, for instance. If I was using the inline 6, not inline, but the 7 set, for instance, if I was using this one here that you've seen me use, which was what I was using from the other position, right, to get to the bonus, right? That one there, throwing from this position, my tendency really was I get both dice off axis like so, and I was just getting a lot of these. And I was getting all kinds of 7s, really, and it was terrible. And so obviously we got to get away from that. As I've said before many times, I'm a big fan of changing your throw to fix what's going on before you start changing your set. And I would love to be able to do that over here, but I'm so I'm so new from this position that, you know, I don't have the ability to just change my throw. I'm just trying to develop some consistency at all, however I can get there. And, you know, when you start over somewhere, or when you're starting from the beginning and doing this, you know, you need to develop a consistent motion. And the only way that you're going to develop a consistent motion is to try and do it the same way over and over and over, right? Obviously, you want to have some good fundamentals and you want to do the basics and all that. I haven't spent a lot of time covering basic fundamentals on this channel simply because my fundamentals are not they're not good. You know, I think you need to defer to other people's channels about how to, you know, throw the dice in the traditional way, you know, which is like, you know, basically going right at the wall, which is essentially what I'm pretty much doing here. You know, I've always been a big fan of using target lines, moving the target line around, and I still do that here. I think anybody can do that. But, you know, releasing them clean at the wall, whether it be straight or at an angle, right? Getting them out of your hand clean is obviously pretty crucial. But I was able to do that from over here with a bit more of a wind up and all that, simply because I had been doing this for so long that I have such touch from over there. God, this gets so annoying, man. These guys, when I'm trying to work from home or do anything, it's like they do nothing but sit right outside the front of my house. And so, you know, you've seen some of my mechanics from stick left be just all over the map, right? It looks so wild and crazy. But, you know, I started out doing this particular way for years and years, that over time I just developed the ability to hit any spot on the table pretty much with all that different crazy windup. Over here, different story. It's even though it's my same hand, it's a different motion than it is like this, right? This, totally comfortable. I can hit any spot on the table, right? Pretty much 99% of the time with all kinds of craziness. Here, I mean, it's like using my left almost. And so it's the funniest thing, right? And so obviously I have some touch because I'm not starting over from the very beginning, but it's so different to me. I'm just trying to develop some consistency at this stage of the game. And unfortunately, I have to change the set around to try to get a decent outcome. Simply because I can't make those micro adjustments on my throw well enough to fix what I'm doing wrong. I can only hope to fix it by changing the set. And so, and you know, obviously we will develop, our skills will improve here over time. And the reason we're doing this obviously is because we want better opportunities. You know, when we go to a place and stick left is always the first spot that's taken for the most part, I guess, because everybody's a right-handed shooter, for, you know, predominantly, and everybody likes to shoot from stick left, right? That means there's a lot of waiting around. Oh God, that was terrible. There was an awful lot of waiting around, and that's just the reason I don't like going to local places, because they're an hour and 20 minutes away. You know, and then when you factor in the waiting time just to get your spot, otherwise you're playing at a game that you know, you're standing at another spot that you don't have an edge at, or you don't have any familiarity. Well, you're just back to playing a damn regular game of craps. And yeah, of course, you know, if you're playing it correctly, you're only giving up a couple of points as far as on the edge, but you know, those that can add up, as everybody knows. And that's not what I come to do. You know, I don't like starting at a table where I got to start from another spot, and then next thing you know, I got to wait an hour, or I got to move, and I just don't like it. I like walking right up to my spot. That's why I've never been a big fan of playing anywhere other than Las Vegas. Simply because of the proximity of other tables, you know what I mean? If I go to one and it's full, or it's not, you know, the conditions aren't any good, I can easily go find another one. Which is just not the case in most other places, you know, because the casinos are few and far between, and a lot of drive time, and you know, I have a busy schedule. I don't have time to commit 5-6 hours to go play, you know what I mean? Because if it doesn't go well, obviously not only did I waste the time, but I also lost the money. And so if I'm going to commit the time, I want to give myself the best chance I can to win. And sitting around the casino, right, only bad things are going to happen. But, you know, I don't play slots, and I pretty much don't do anything else other than this. You know, I play games that I feel like I have the edge at. Now, whether you want to say I do or I don't, right? But at least that's that's my thoughts going into it anyway. And I'm pretty disciplined when it comes to that kind of thing. You know, if I go somewhere else and I can't do what I came to do, I pretty much just leave, unless I'm determined to play, in which case I'll just sit and wait around, like I pretty much do every single time. But I don't like waiting. If there was a sports book nearby or something like that where I could just sit back and, you know, hang back and watch a game or two or something like that. I don't like drinking at the casino, even though it happens, but I can't go up to the local casino and drink up there, because then I gotta find a way to get home, and obviously I can't drink and drive, and so you know that's out. So it's either play or leave, as far as I'm concerned, and that's the purpose of trying to practice from another spot. Because I do not like to get involved in things I don't feel like I have an advantage at. If you're playing for any serious amount of, or significant amount of money, right? I don't even mean serious, I just mean significant. If I'm playing a $5 craps game, right, I could care less. But if I have to commit $15, $20, $25 table minimum, right, I'm not going to do it unless I feel like I've got everything lined up working in my favor. I think the guy with the weed whacker is moved to the house next door. You know, at this stage right here, if you see me going quick or, you know, using questionable fundamentals or mechanics or all that stuff, I don't spend a lot of time on the fundamental part of it really, or the mechanics, trying to go slow and making sure they're perfect every time. When you're in this stage, I like to throw the dice a lot, and I will sacrifice perfect fundamentals early on to develop the, you know, develop the touch and the range to try and make sure I'm building muscle memory as far as how to hit that one spot. Now, whether the dice are perfect, you know, flying through the air and all that, you know, if I had to sit there and take enough time to make sure that that was perfect every single time, I wouldn't get nearly as many reps in. And it's all about the reps in the beginning. Now, I understand you could be developing bad habits and all that stuff, but that stuff's easily correctable down the road, I feel. By taking a little extra time, if you're a big believer in that. But because my mechanics are kind of questionable to begin with, you know, as far as dice flying through the air, I never thought that was the most important thing. I just never did. And obviously, I think I've shown it. I've had a decent amount of success on the channel. Obviously, I've been playing craps for years. I've had plenty of good success in real life, doing it exactly the way that I do it. So, you know, who knows? To each his own, really, is all it comes down to. But as I've said endlessly in other videos, you know your tendencies, know what they are. Try to match a set that matches those tendencies, and then make sure you're betting it. All that comes together. It all ties together. But I will get there. We will get there together, guys. We will do it together. Nope, a little squirrely. Oh, 5-3 actually. Sorry, I turned it over. Well, I tell you what, man. Throwing from this position, it tweaks my back. I don't know if I've just got so much scar tissue built up from standing the other way or what, but this is not a comfortable posture for me, at least when I'm shooting. It'd be fine if I'm standing there when other people are shooting, I guess, because you're facing the table, right? Here you're like contorting your posture, and I gotta develop this. I would love to be able to get into a thing where I can have the dice floating in my hand and then hit that spot like I can do it from over there. You know, as you've seen me before, I reach out to the target and then I go. You know, here I don't have the same feel. So this is what I'm just trying to work on. Well, that certainly looked pretty. Just a different release point, angle, all that stuff. But yeah, no sniping numbers or any of that stuff from this position. I don't have that. We don't have that in our bag yet. But it's a coming. It's a coming. So I'm going to respond to Chris Wynn, a member. He sent me a message. I pretty much responded in the comment, but let me go ahead and go through it here since I've got it on my mind and we are recording this. His question was, curious what set you use for different table conditions. I've seen you throw aces on top and fours facing the back. I've also seen you throw fours on top, fives in the back. Any rhyme or reason for either? Yeah, more or less my response is this. I have developed over the course of this channel, and even though we only posted our first video on our first video was November the 20th. We created the channel back in April, but didn't even work on it. Didn't spend a single second on the channel until November. So it took a little while to make the, took a little while to get a decent video made and all that. One second. So, yeah, you know, I used the hardware set predominantly for years and years, and I would just change the way that I throw to get to different numbers, you know, to get to the sides of the dice, to get to the 6s or the 1s, using that 5-5-4-4 hardware set. And that actually worked for many, many years. And it really taught me how to contort and tweak my throw enough to where I was able to get to different numbers. But I wasn't ever going after the bonus either, right? I was just trying to get into a nice groove and then repeat that action over and over and over. That was actually a pretty good one there. I don't think we rolled a single 7. How about that? Let's count it up here. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 8, 9, 10, 11, shit, folks, we're almost to the bonus. How about that? No 12. We needed 12. Hot damn. All right, let's dial it up for them. I'll get back to my thoughts here, but now let's figure out. Oh, damn it! I should have looked at my dice and see if I could figure it out. Okay, well, I know this. We're throwing it this way or we're using this set every single time. And we haven't seen, but we have seen quite a bit of 6s here. Let's just keep going and see what happens. Hard 10. Ah, 6-1-7. Hey, I got to run, guys. See you on this one. But hey, let me finish my thought here. I'll just throw the dice a few more times while I finish my thought. But yeah, what set do you use on bouncy surfaces, I believe was part of the question. I don't think that has a real effect. I think what does change the most is your throw. You got to make adjustments in your throw depending on the bouncy surface, right? You got to come in differently, different, lower, steeper, whatever. Those are the things that you need to be changing about the throw to defeat the surface. You know, if you're just trying to throw the dice the same way every single time, well, depending on the surface, you're going to have different reactions once they land. So you got to change whatever you need to change on the throw to get the dice landing a little softer and more consistently, so you're seeing a little bit more, you know, of a repeating type action upon landing. Once you figure that out, then you could start changing the set, simply because now you have a repeatable action in your throw, right? If you're throwing the dice, let's just say you're throwing the dice the same way, okay? That part is the same. But the dice are bouncing all over the place, and there's not a lot of consistency, not as a result of your throwing mechanics, but as a result of the way that you're throwing them versus the surface condition down there. Then it's causing the dice to tumble all over the place for whatever reason. Well, changing your set around isn't necessarily going to do a whole lot if the dice are tumbling and falling all over the place, right? So you've got to make changes to the throwing motion and mechanics first until you see some consistency. You, of course, can change the set during that period, but if you get a good outcome on one of the throws or just a couple of the throws, it's not necessarily going to be a result of the set, simply because if the throw is still, if the way that you're throwing it is creating all kinds of havoc simply because of the condition of the surface, right, without changing your throw, then, you know, you just got lucky on the set. So you got to change your throw first so you see some consistency upon landing, and then you start dialing in your sets, right? Then you're going to see some consistent, repeatable action or consistent, repeatable success, assuming you're having success, right? If you're not having success or good outcomes right then, but your landings are good, your throw is good, now it's the set. Okay, you really have to differentiate between, is it the set or is it my throw versus this surface? So sometimes the surface is fine, sometimes the set is fine, okay, but your throw is bad. Okay, your throw is inconsistent, your release is inconsistent. Okay, other times your throw is consistent and the set is fine, but the surface is no good, and those three are not working in harmony, more or less. And so you really have to be able to pinpoint what the problem is. You know, otherwise you're just back to playing a regular game of craps, and there's nothing wrong with that either. But if you're trying to do this and unlock a couple of those, you know, unlock a couple of those doors, you know, then you're going to need to be able to differentiate what's happening, when and how and all that stuff. And you got to isolate the problem and then fix whichever one is the issue. You know, it's not always going to be the set. And that's the biggest misconception I think a lot of people have, because I had it. You know, and I'm, you know, you're watching me develop throughout the stages of this channel, and that's what I was saying. It's like I started out using one set predominantly. But, you know, I began to realize that it really has less to do about the set and more about your throwing mechanics and your motion. And then, of course, all the table conditions, they're going to come into play as well. And you know, that's why when people are just like, oh, maybe this isn't the set for me. Well, that's part of the equation, right? You need to figure out you need to get all the factors of the equation and make sure you fully understand them. You know, instead of just trying to guess on the set, because that's just like hitting a moving target. You know, you need to try and simplify everything, dumb it down, isolate everything piece by piece, and then work on them one at a time. Now, that was absolutely awful, but with a good result. And that's the other thing, you know what I mean? Like I've said endlessly in other videos, I know a lot of times people see these videos without having seen some of the others. So if you have to endure me repeating myself on some of this stuff, you'll know why I do it. Simply because some people are new and they don't see all of it. But you have to be able to differentiate between, you know, sometimes you throw them perfectly and you get a poor result. Sometimes you throw them imperfectly and you get a good result. And make sure you can, you know, you can identify when those moments are. You know, okay, is that just dumb luck, or was that through skill, or was that a combination of both? And it's usually a combination of both. But, you know, and you can't know it on small sample sizes. Yes, you need a bigger picture. You have to have a big picture of what's happening. But once you've gotten some skill and you've developed all that over years and years of practice and recording yourself and logging some of the data, I am a fan of the logging data. You definitely need to do that for a period of time. And then once you've gotten past the part where you understand what's happening with your dice and what you're doing well versus what you're not doing well, once you know you know, like when I throw the dice, I know exactly if I've thrown it well or not. Despite how they may look in the air to you, if you're under the impression that they need to be flying through the air, glued together 100% of the time from start to finish, right? I'm just of a different opinion. But even though if they may not look perfect in the air, I know if they came out of my hand clean. And I know what's happening typically a lot of the time. I'm going to end on that 7 right there, guys. Hope you enjoyed this. Let's see how that one looked. Okay, not too shabby either. Looks like we only had 1 7 here. Pretty good. So, you know, look at there. I think my mechanics and my, you know, my release and all that has improved. Obviously, it's not going to get worse. It couldn't be any worse from where we started, obviously. And so just by making that one slight adjustment, I'm not doing a whole lot different. I'm pretty much throwing them in the same spot down there. I'm standing in the same spot. Making that one small adjustment has made a difference on the set. And so, yeah, you know what? You're trying to You're improving everywhere you can, all around the margins. You know what I mean? You fix a little here, you fix a little over here, and then one day it all kind of comes together for you. You know, and then it came together for us today. Tomorrow or later this afternoon, might be a different story. And that's just kind of how we go about it. Hope you enjoyed this one. See you on the next one.